Hello everybody, Megazard X here, back at it again to give you another very exciting video. And for today, I was thinking like, what in the world do I want to talk about within today's video? And the idea popped in my mind. It's been a while since I did a tier ranking video. And I was trying to think, what kind of series I've done Mario, I've done Legend of Zelda. But one series I definitely hold very close and true to my heart is Fire Emblem, and I hadn't done a tier ranking thing for the. And there's plenty of games out there for both the mainline and then some of the little small spin-offs out there. I was like, you know what? I could very well pull this off. So within today's video, it's going to be me going through tier ranking every single Fire Emblem game, both main series as well as a good handful of the spin-offs up in there though. And just kind of give my short little thoughts on every game that was happened to be released for the whole entire series. So that is going to be the topic for today's video right here. So if you really like this video, make sure you go and hit that like button, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So without any further ado, let's go and jump straight up into this video. All right, so here in front of me, I managed to have the whole entire list of Fire Emblem games. You have everything shown on here from literally the very first game of the series, that being the original Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, going all the way down to the most recent thing being Fire Emblem Engage. So got the tier list, you got your S all the way down to D, and I got the where, if I'm not really feeling it, I might just stick it up in there. I'm not sure. I might tweak this list as we kind of go on throughout the rest of this video though, but here we go. All right, first up is Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. Now, it's been a wait, I would say, since I've been able to actually play this, because for the longest time, unless you were emulating this thing, this was a game that was never localized or brought over here to the West though. But luckily one day Nintendo came out and said, hey, we're gonna localize this thing for the Fire Emblem 30th anniversary. So I was like, yes, there was like a whole entire limited edition that was included up in this thing. So I was like, heck yes. The only drawback was it was only on the market for like, it felt like 6 months or something like that. And then they pulled it. And I was like, wait, what the heck are we doing over here, Nintendo? What are we doing over here? But nonetheless, I thought it was a really solid game. It's very basic. It ain't complex like, the modern day Fire Emblem ones right there. But there's a lot of elements that were included in this game that are still, major focal points, moving throughout the rest of the series though. So overall, I would say it's a really solid game. Where would I place it? For now, I ain't gonna be too generous, but I think it's a C game. It's like right in the middle of the road, ain't nothing too crazy. Next up, you have Fire Emblem Gaiden, but we had a remake later on within the series, that being Echo Shadows of Valentia. I hadn't actually personally played this game though. However, I did manage to listen to a little bit of the music and stuff like that though. But for the sake of argument, I'm just going to slide it right below the first game. I'm just going to leave it right there on that tier. I think that might be all right. All right, now this third one's, it's basically like a remake or a retelling of the first game, and then they add a little bit extra on there. I'm just going to throw it also in the C tier. Like, I don't think there's anything too crazy or flashy about it, though. I don't know why the heck we never gotten that localized or a remake localized, but we'll get to that. Genealogy of a Holy War. I think there's a good chance that we may get this game some point within either on the Nintendo Switch or what will be the Switch successor. It could be as early as this year, or it could be, I don't know, maybe next year or something like that. I don't know. There's a remake, I think, that's cooking in the midst. Sigurd is, the main character for this game. I have a good feeling that, this game could very well show up here fairly soon though. But it's interesting because a lot of the romancing elements that we kind of know within modern, Fire Emblem games from like Awakening onward all originated from this one game originally. And it was just kind of funny to see how, Awakening and Fates kind of went back to the drawing board, pulled the element from Genealogy of Holy War. And a lot of people really love their relationships, and kind of goes into, in effect with the whole tier ranking, or not tier ranking, support systems between like your C support, B, A, and then the S. Like a lot of that, I think might have been inspired from purely this game right here though. But for that sake and reason alone, maybe I'll put it like one step above that one right there though. What it being a Super Famicom game, looked a little better, looked a little clean. All right, whatever. Next one is Thresha 776. Honestly, I cannot really say too much about this one right here. Like outside of me seeing that main character within Fire Emblem Engage, I really cannot say too much about this one game in particular though. It's a little bit unfortunate. So I'll just leave it in the category. If I could feel like I can throw it somewhere later, then I will, but I don't know. I ain't really feeling too hot about that one though. This one is literally called BS. I really have to throw that in the because like I know that's a spin-off of it. I know it was something for like the Satellaview. If you happen to do like a little bit of research on that game though, it was a little bit of a weird game, I would say, but I don't think we're ever gonna see this game be talked about, mentioned, or even brought back up into the limelight ever again though. So I'm just gonna leave it right there for now. All right, now the list gets interesting where I can feel like I can definitely say a lot more about these games because those first few games, we only got one of them localized, one of them remade, at least for us in the West. But all the rest of these, I have some kind of experience or I know of knowledge for all the rest of these games. So next up, you had Fire Emblem Binding Blade. Now, this one right here is literally about the story of Roy and stuff. It's literally between this one and the next one being Blazing Blade. You had this one we got to see first, although while it's not localized, at some point they got to either remake or localize this game. Hopefully, Nintendo, come on now. But you had this one, but technically the game after it was technically the prequel story to this game right here, though. But I have a little bit of experience on this one, though. I did manage to play like a localized version, like a ROM edit version or whatever of this game, though. Say it's pretty solid. It did some things pretty cool. I'll just leave it somewhere in the B tier. I think that's okay. Now, this next one, with it being technically, for us in the West, we knew it as just general Fire Emblem. But for those over there in Japan and stuff like that, this was known as the Blazing Blade. Now, this was technically the first game in the series that we managed to have over here in the West, so I was very grateful and appreciative of that. It wasn't until like years later I went back and actually went through and actually played through this game, though. But it was a really great experience going through and playing as Hollywood, Lynn, and Hector. All around a very solid game. So you know what? In terms of where I'm going to place it, I would say I think it's in the B tier. I don't think it's too high. I mean, Lynn pulls it up by a lot of points, but I would say it's a solid B tier right there. Fire Emblem and the Sacred Stones. Now, I had this game as well, because at least with a lot of these Fire Emblem games, once I really started getting into the series, I started going back and getting the original copies, whether it be the GBA copies. This is just one of them right here. I actually was playing this on the Game Boy Advance player on the GameCube just so I could play it on a bigger screen though. But honestly, it's really interesting, going through and playing through the two different twins and rotating between them though. Like you'll start off as playing like as the girl character, and you'll go and start playing as the dude. You could choose to or if not, and then you just kind of go back and forth between them. So it was a nice little interesting element. Now, I think they actually implemented that within Fire Emblem. No, actually, they might have originally pulled this from, Fire Emblem Gaiden originally. But we saw this again within Fire Emblem Echoes, though. But I think that's a really cool one. They definitely made some improvements with this game in terms of, like, the convoy and, like, you being able to buy weapons and stuff. Like, you don't have to spend and use X amount of time. Oh, gosh. Don't even get me started on that. The older Fire Emblem games, especially that first one, gosh, you have to go around, make sure you buy and equip and, get all your stuff sorted out on the battlefield before starting the next battle, because then you're immediately rushing to the fray. Versus, in Sacred Stones, you finally had that preparation time period where you can actually go and buy stuff. So from that aspect alone, I'll definitely put that at the top of the B tier right there. All right, next up, we managed to have Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. And I would say to this, heck yes. Like, don't even get me started on this game. This is a really great game. There's a reason why this game costs like stupid amounts of money up on eBay on that second market right there for this being a GameCube game, because this is peak Fire Emblem right here. Like, Ike, man, we like Ike. There's a reason why that's the saying though too. I mean, this was like the first game in the series to actually, incorporate really cool cutscenes up within the game itself. There's a phenomenal story between this, and it wasn't just like a one and done story. You had like this story as being the base, and then it kind of got moved on over into the next game. That was the Wii title, though. We'll talk about that here in a second, though. But overall, this is a game I really love thoroughly. Man, it really kind of put Fire Emblem on the mark, at least for me, though. But you know what? I'm gonna put it in S tier. That's gonna be the first Fire Emblem game I'm gonna put up there in S tier right there, because I just think that there's a lot of cool things they managed to implement when in this one game right here. There's a reason why I feel like this is probably the holy grail in the Fire Emblem series right here. It's like the one game that everybody kind of wants to get, because if you happen to play the game, you know the story, that what happens within it, though. There's a reason why you want to play it. At some point, we'll probably get a remake of this game, like most of the other Fire Emblem games. It's just going to be a matter of fact when, but I think they're slowly going through. You have to get through all of those. Well, we're not even out of the Super Famicom games, let alone getting within the GBA games. So, that's what's kind of going on with that. Next up, we have Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Now, this one right here, obviously, is the second half of the story that happens after Path of Radiance on the GameCube. I hadn't really actually played with this or even dabbled with it. I have it in my collection. It's only a matter of time until I get around to playing this, though. But I know, Ike happens to roll back over within this game, though. It is a Wii game, so it's like, hey, it's another good console Nintendo game. So, that thought alone, I think it's probably, I think from what I kind of been hearing from most people in the community as well, I feel like that might be a solid B game. I don't think it gets up there as high as what Path of Radiance, but Radiant Dawn, I think it's just pretty solid. I don't think I hear like a lot of negative opinions on it, nor do I hear like extremely like some strong positives on it. So I think it's like just a solid game right there. All right, this next one, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, is the remake of the very first game, but it's on the DS. Some oddball reason, I do not understand why people don't really necessarily love this game that much. I think it's because of some of the twist up in here. I think they added an extra character and stuff. Like, I dabble with the game. I had the game. I dabble with it, but I've managed to play the original first one, so I don't feel like there's like a really big need for me to go through and play the whole entire remake of this other one now. I mean, sometimes even when you're looking at it, the pixels on this thing look kind of a little bit off. Like when you're moving your character around on the stage and stuff, it looks a little bit off. I do like the dialogue and supports and stuff and the conversations you're having on the top screen whenever you get to those moments, though. But at least the combat and stuff, like, it's not as really cool as like a lot of these other GBA games that I dropped the majority of them up within the B tier, because that pixel art within the GBA games was just great, but what they were trying to do in the DS one, it didn't look as solid. I'm just gonna say it. So if I had to place it somewhere, I don't know if people are gonna really hate me for this or whatnot, though, but I'm gonna leave it at the top of C. I don't know, or I could split it and then just kind of put it below the first game. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I feel like that might be solid. Might rub some people off the wrong way, but we'll just leave it like that. All right, next one is a remake of the third game, which I don't know why in the world they do not want to actually give us the a localized version of that third game. Like, what is going on with this third game where we can't get this thing in the West? Like, you had the original, you had the remake, and we still don't have nothing. Like what the heck? I don't know. I just have to leave it in I don't know what Nintendo's thinking on this game, though, but I just have to leave it like that. Like, it is a little bit unfortunate. All right, next up we have Fire Emblem Awakening. Now, this right here, if it weren't for this game right here, gosh by golly, I don't think we would have Fire Emblem still be a series to this day, because literally we heard about all of the reports and stuff with with Fire Emblem series where it's like, hey, if Fire Emblem doesn't manage to sell by X amount of units, we're just gonna be done with this series, though, because sales started kind of tipping down low. They got really this like bottom of the barrel essentially, though, and it was really unfortunate. But luckily they managed to go back and pull from some roots. I think they pull a lot of clear elements from Genealogy of Holy War in terms of the romance and options and stuff. Really took it to a whole nother level within this game, though. And I think it's the art style, like the way how they kind of portrayed a lot of these characters within this game. And then obviously you had a phenomenal story. So the combination of all of that stuff, the fact they released on the Nintendo 3DS, where I think it sold like north over 70 million units overall when it was all said and done. All the planets happened to align, and luckily this game managed to save the Fire Emblem series. So that aspect alone, it definitely has to go up in the S tier. I had no qualms with this game. I thought it was really solid, though. I don't think it might be better than Path of Radiance, but I still think it's up there in the S tier. All right, now we get to some interesting topics right here. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about some of these Fate games. Now, say what you will about these Fate games. This is my tier list. Let me keep it straight. My tier list. So we'll talk about each one of these three different parts separately, even though when you put them all together, they're all still, the same Fate game though. But first off, part one, we'll talk about Birthright. Now, Birthright was obviously with you being Corn, and you make more of your ties closely associated within the people that you're actually blood kin to, even though you grew up with the people from Nor and stuff, but you actually, once you get revealed the truth, you actually go back to your actual original family. So this one, in comparison from Birthright to Conquest, I know Birthright was a slightly easier game. Conquest was a little more difficult. At least with Birthright, you can go back and play certain maps over and over and over in order to gain some EXP to make things a little bit more easier. I did like that aspect, me personally, just by myself though. But if I had to put it somewhere, I might just drop it in the A tier. I don't think it was like perfectly S, but I thought it was, pretty good in and of itself. Now, Conquest, this one's a real challenge. This one is not for the faint of hearts. If you really want yourself some, good, solid challenge up in this, I would say, this might be the game for you. Because all things considered, with this one being that much more difficult, and then with you being on the story of Norse, I would say, I think between Birthright and Conquest, say the Conquest story, I think, is a little bit better than the Birthright one, especially considering how you grew up with these people all your life. They're not necessarily your family and stuff, but hey, you managed to, make these really strong bonds with each other, and you decided to, part with them. I think every time you manage to get up to that decision, I don't know what chapter that was, chapter 3 or something like that, where it's like you make the decision where you're going to side off with the Birthright characters, the Conquest, or you're going to go on your own path with Revelation. Man, that decision always tore me apart, and it was always tough. But I think in terms of story itself, I think it's definitely better than Birthright, so I'll put it one step above it. Now, Revelation, and you manage to put all of it together, once you get your little lore drops out of Conquest, you get your lore drops out of Birthright and stuff, I would say you definitely want to make sure you play both of those games first before you jump into Revelation though. But once you do manage to jump into Revelation, I think the payoff with it, in terms of everything you managed to learn through all these separate stories, I think it adds up so well. I mean, we never seen a Fire Emblem game be split up to where it's like, hey, if you want the full story, you got to play all these 3 different parts. Some people weren't necessarily a big fan of it though, but at least with me personally, I love the heck out of this because it just allowed me to play more and more Fire Emblem though. I know some of the maps might have been reused at certain chapters and stuff, but honestly, I really loved it. And the payoff what we got with Revelation in terms of everything, I loved it. So that gets it knocked up at least one more tier above in the S tier. I don't know if it might have been as good as Awakening though, but you know what? Fates, I think, is still really good right there. So I think the payoff, when you put everything together, is good. But individually, if you just were only going to play Conquest or Birthright, maybe a tier below it. All right, now we enter in that age of where we start to get these weird old some weird old spin-offs. Some of them are cool, some of them are kind of I don't know what they were thinking though. And the first one we got to talk about is Tokyo Mirage Session A. Like originally this came out on the Wii U. It did manage to port it over there to the Nintendo Switch. And at least when I'm looking at all this, I was like, who the heck thought about this idea about coming up with a game that's literally about some pop idols and stuff, kind of incorporating some like Shin Megami Tensei elements up in there though, but then incorporating some Fire Emblem characters up in it though. Visually it looked kind of cool, but gameplay, how the heck does this even add? I know Sonic, he's a good friend of mine. I know he was a big candidate of this game, the reason why he really loved it though. I'm looking at this game, I'm like, nah, out of all the spin-offs in this one, this is probably at the bottom of the back. I'd rather play whatever this BS title right here is. I'd rather play that over some Tokyo Mirage Session right there. I'm just saying though, but oh goodness, I'm dropping it in D. I know some people might be really upset about that though, but I'm just putting it in the D. Oh my goodness. All right, next up we had Fire Emblem Heroes. Now this one was the popular mobile spinoff. Oh shoot, this thing has made hand over fist in terms of money and stuff from Nintendo. And oh my gosh, you know what? Somehow I managed not to put a single cent or dime up in this game though. But when this game originally came out in 2017, like what we were having like a triple win. Like we had so many games announced in 2017. Like we had the Fire Emblem Heroes, we had Fire Emblem Echoes. I think we had the Warriors game. So a lot of Fire Emblem was coming out in 2017. Oh, quite a bit. But Heroes was really cool because it was like the collaboration where every single one of these games that we saw in this tier list, they had all their characters pulled together into this one game, telling a very unique kind of story. But obviously, the battles themselves and you moving around on the map, it was very simplified. It couldn't be really as advanced as like these other Fire Emblem games as we know it, though. This is more like get in, play it for like a couple minutes, get out of a map. But all things considered, because of the collaboration effect, I think it was a really solid title. I think it belongs somewhere in B. I'll just put it in the bottom of B. I think it's just good to have it kind of right in the middle of the road, though. There are some diehard fans up in here that play the heck out of that game. It's definitely a good go-to game to play between Fire Emblem releases, though. I think it's just solid of the road, though. Don't get me wrong. I think it's really good. I was playing the heck out of this for like the first 2 years that this game came out. All right, next up we have Fire Emblem Echo Shadows of Valentia. Now, this is a remake of the original Fire Emblem Gaiden game that we managed to get over there on the Super Famicom. This right here, yes, we had some voice acting in some of the other previous games like Fates as well as Awakening, but this was the first game in the series that managed to fully voice nearly every single dialogue we've seen from any character speak in any of these games. And I was like, oh shoot, that made a world of a difference for me personally. It allowed you to really kind of bond, get used to these characters. Kind of, each character had a little bit more so of an identity within themselves, just hearing them speak and interact with all these other characters, whether it be friends or foes alike. I think that, honestly, that in and of itself really stood out. Obviously, you're going back and forth switching between Alm and then Celica, and then seeing how the different stories played out, and then eventually they kind of, combined together and stuff. So I think they definitely went back and pulled some elements from its original game / Sacred Stones. But put all that stuff together, I definitely say that's an S tier game. I will actually put, this gets a little tough. I think it's better than Revelation and Awakening. But is it better? I'll put it better than the GameCube title, though. I don't know. There's just something about that game that's just really cool. All right, next up you have Fire Emblem Warriors. Now this one was technically a spin-off from basically just a collaboration of all of these different Fire Emblem characters thrown together within a hack and slash Warriors game. It did manage to come out on the 3DS, and it also managed to come out on the Nintendo Switch as well. I was looking at this game, it looked kind of cool at face value, but it did kind of look kind of bland. Like there wasn't like a lot of identity up within it, though. But I had to put it somewhere. I might have to put it C or D. I'm not sure exactly where I really want to put this mess at, but y'all might not like me for this. I'm putting it at the bottom of C. How about that? I can't put it on the same tier as Tokyo Mirage Session. I can't do it. Now, Fire Emblem Three Houses. This is the game right here. I know some people love the heck out of it. I see Nintendo strive and push for this, at least from Nintendo America, in terms of the marketing and stuff for this. I remember there was like big cults for like, hey, are you gonna go with Golden Deer? Are you gonna go with the Blue Lions? Are you gonna go with the Black Eagles? Like everybody was like, placing their stake and their claim on which team they're gonna actually start off with. And then obviously once you beat the game, the first route, then you can go back and play it subsequent times within a different route, though. But having a story arc where it's like, hey, you're actually doing things via like school characters, I think somehow the way how they wrote all these characters within Three Houses, I think it's one of the first games where it's like you can look at almost any one of these characters and I can relate to them in some kind of form, shape, or fashion, because since they were all closely together within the school arc, and then once the war arc broke out, they're all kind of facing each other and becoming enemies and stuff. After looking and hearing all of that, it kind of made sense where I was like, oh goodness, we're actually able to relate with each one of these characters. Like if you bring up some kind of random character from Fire Emblem Awakening that's not like a main cast character like within the families or anything like that, you say, who is this? Just be like, I can't remember that. You show any character within 3 houses, I was like, oh, I actually know, or I resonated with this character, especially he managed to play through all 3 of the routes though. So from that point alone, I definitely say that's S tier for me, and I would dare put it even above Fire Emblem Echoes. All right, now we're down to the last couple of games right here. We have one more Warriors game. That's another spin-off game right here. Definitely built off of some of the elements from 3 houses and kind of did a what-if scenario if we managed to get, you know, one other new character up in the mix and stuff, interacting with Violet and stuff and all the other, you know, students and stuff from 3 houses. Say this one definitely has a lot more flair, a lot more personality and stuff than the original Fire Emblem Warriors, or dropped in the bottom of the sea. But I would say that, you know, this one I thought did a lot better than the first iteration. I like it when they actually build upon and do things like this, pull elements from it, and actually give it a really good story that you can almost relate closely to a main series game, while albeit it ain't necessarily going to be the case though. But I had to place it somewhere, I'll probably put it at the bottom of A tier right there. I think that's pretty solid for it. Now, lastly, we get down to the very last game, and it's none other than Fire Emblem Engage. Now, if you see my review on my channel, though, I had some things to say about this game. I won't bring up every little aspect of it, though. But the number one hindrance for me with this game is the stinking art style and the story. There's 3 different things I usually look at a game. It's art style, story, and gameplay. Obviously, the gameplay is the most important. And don't get me wrong, the gameplay is great in this game, though. However, everything we managed to see, but in the actual story, it was just way too predictable. And then, especially the art style, I did not like the way how Lear had that split red and blue hair. Like, what the heck? Make it all red, make it all blue. I would have been fine with it either way. But when you started to split that mess, I was like, oh, no. And then some of the environments and stuff look a little bit too colorful. It didn't kind of give me my traditional, like, Fire Emblem-ly kind of feel in terms of, like, a war's going on. I just didn't get that vibe in some scenarios, though. Until literally like the whole map is on flames or something at some points though. But all those thoughts aside, I have to put it somewhere in this tier ranking with, y'all really ain't gonna like me for this. Story puts it up near, or not story. Ooh, let me recorrect myself. In terms of gameplay, it would have been probably somewhere at like the top of A. That's where it would have been if it were for gameplay. However, once you can incorporate story, and then you start incorporating the art style, dude, y'all ain't gonna like me for this. Top of D right there, top of D, baby. The only thing that was redeeming quality about that game is just the gameplay. Outside of that whole freaking shoot, it was a hot mess. It was a hot mess. Real ones, no. The other ones, yeah, they're just kind of okay with it. They probably realistically putting this around like top of B or something like that. This is my tier list. That thing's going at the top of D. I'm sorry, but man, I respect a lot of those, you know, early, you know, Famicom and Super Famicom games more so than this one right here. It is a little bit unfortunate considering how it's like an anniversary game and such though, but that will do it right there. That is my official tier ranking list for Fire Emblem right here. Only 3 of them I can't really decide where to put them at, unfortunately though, but I don't know. This one probably would have been D. This one probably would have been somewhere, oh gosh, probably really close, like right around here, right with the other DS game. This one probably would have been like right above it, Virtual 776 if I had to choose something. But yep, that's basically gonna do it right there. So that is my official tier list for all things Fire Emblem. All right, so there you have it. This was kind of a little bit more of a beefy one, but it was a little bit more of a fun, just kind of me rambling and giving my thoughts on every single one of these Fire Emblem games throughout this whole entire series. We had a lot of great games. You know, there are a few mid games, and then there are some I really scratched my head like, what are we doing over here at Nintendo? And a good chunk of them are ones I still want to see localized, ones I really do want to go through and play, whether it be localized or remakes that Nintendo just needs to sit down and just say, hey, let's just go ahead and freaking do it though. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all you think about this tier list. I know a lot of y'all might not necessarily agree with some of my takes I happen to mention. Some of y'all might agree with some of them though, but I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section down below. But that's gonna basically do it in terms of today's video though. So if you really like this, make sure you're gonna hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So remember y'all, until our video I make next, see y'all.